Hey people, I'm back with another video. I'm reacting to the appearance of Joyce and Derek Chisora on the Talk Show with Paul Hawksby and Andy Jacobs. It's fight week, so Talk Sport is a great platform for the guys to promote their fight on the 27th of July. And this week's all about media. During fight week, I find that once you've watched one interview, you've watched them all because all the interviewers ask similar questions. How was fight camp? How are you feeling? What's your prediction? Is it going to be knockout or are you going to win by points? So I'm not really going to spend too much time watching a whole load of interviews this week. So anyway, Hawksby and Jacob open up the show with their observation that both men appear to be extremely calm. They say to Derek that normally during fight weeks he's normally very unpredictable, but they observe that Derek is in a very smiley mood and how a happy fighter makes a dangerous fighter. So what made me smile in them saying all of that is when the camera cut to both men, you've got two security guys behind both of them. Yeah, they have to make sure that no tables start flying, no one gets glassed, and we don't have no baby ting going on inside there. But anyway, Derek said, like, he's had a great training camp and that this fight is not going beyond 5 rounds. Joe's response to Derek's prediction was that he was going to put a dent in his head. And let me know in the comments, do you think if Joyce puts a dent in Derek's head, do you think that hat, that bowler hat that Derek's got on his head, you reckon it will fit his head better? Bro, is Derek wearing that hat or is that hat just resting at the top of his head? I suppose like they don't do extra large because boy, I mean looking at both men like Joe Joyce has got a big head as well, so I know that hat's not fitting his head either. Golly. Anyway, enough talk about bowler hats and big heads. But Derek goes on to say that this is most likely going to be his last fight in London, and he kind of hinted that it will be his last fight in the country as well. He probably has plans to like fight over in Saudi Arabia, because at this point of his career, he's 34 wins and 13 losses. So we pretty much know that Derek's career is over, but he insists that he's got more fights in him and that the whole reason he fights is to pay bills because nowadays it's just expensive just to live. So he's had 47 fights. So the presenters were speaking about Derek's desire to get to 50 fights, which is fair enough because if Derek sees that as being a milestone of reaching 50 fights, then why not? You always fear for a person's safety, especially someone like Derek, like in that particular style that he fights. He's gone through so many wars, but sometimes some boxers who haven't had the wars that Derek has had, but the effects of boxing seems to be more evident on those people where their speech is affected. But Derek doesn't seem to have any of those sort of issues at all right now. At the end of the day, it's really up to Derek how long he prolongs his career. But personally, for me, I feel he should retire. But, you know, a man's decision is a man's decision. I totally understand Derek's point when he says that even when you retire, you need money to survive. But I just feel that, as a boxer, even when you do retire, there's other ways you can make money. He could start a podcast, just like Carl the Cobra, International Hall of Famer, and make money from that. This particular part of the interview made me chuckle a bit because both men were asked whether they study each other's fights. So Joe went on to say that yeah, he studies Derek and he's been in a lot of entertaining fights. And as Joe was speaking, Derek interrupted and said, well, I don't study none of Joe's fights. And he was insinuating that Joe's fights are boring. But then Joe's comeback, which was a very good comeback, he said, well, when you fought Tyson Fury, your head was just getting rocked back with the jab. He was constantly jabbing you, and the fight was going just one direction. And he just thought, well, obviously Tyson Fury is winning the fight, so I'm going to head home. So I went home early because it was so one-sided, which is true, which is just so true. But that was a nice little comeback from Joe. I find it interesting that Joe mentioned the fight that Derek had with Fury at Wembley. And for me, that is the key to victory for Joyce. I've got Joyce winning this fight, but I just believe that when a fighter is much taller and physically bigger than a fighter, they have to take advantage of their jab. Similar to the way that Joe beat Daniel Dubois by just basically peppering him with the jab. He needs to do that against Derek. We all know that Derek has just got one way of fighting, and that's come forward. That Joe Fraser esque type of style where he's just basically walking his opponent down and knowing that he's a shorter fighter in majority of fights that he's in, he knows he has to close the distance. But what Joe has to do, he has to just really kind of just command that center of the ring with the jab. Slowly walk down Derek. Don't take any risks at all. Work off the jab, and yeah, and openings will appear in the fight. There's that saying that you can jab with a jabber, but you can't hook with a hooker. So Joe must take advantage of his size and also his amateur background because out of the two fighters, Joe has the better boxing skills. And we know that Joe Joyce isn't the fastest heavyweight out there. He has very slow feet, doesn't move his head. But against Derek, he just needs to just use that jab. Do similar to what Tyson Fury did, and he should win this fight by stoppage. Overall, what I take from this Talksport interview is that both guys do respect each other. You know, there was a bit of banter where Derek was saying to Joe that after the fight, I'm not bringing you five guys. I'm going to bring you chicken shawarma and some Chinese food. And Joe was saying to Derek, oh well, can you use a chopstick? And said, yeah, can you use a chopstick? And like Joe said, yeah, I can use a chopstick to catch a fly. So it's all pretty kind of friendly. I do definitely see Joe winning this fight, and this is a nice payday for both guys. Hopefully, Joe from this fight can just go on to put himself in the world title contention again because he did work hard to get there. And yeah, let me know what your predictions are for this fight. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.